Hello, I'm sorry with whatever happened that I got cut off again. We're on day 46, reading 13th, 14th, and 15th chapters of Numbers. And this will have to be a B because of whatever happened. I'm not sure. It even is acting like it's loading up again on day 34. Not sure what's going on there. Maybe they had some changes. I don't know. But we still get to read Numbers chapter 15. So let's go ahead and do that. Jehovah spoke further to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you eventually come into the land that I am giving you to dwell in, and you make an offering by fire to Jehovah from the herd or the flock, whether a burnt offering or a sacrifice, to perform a special vow or a voluntary offering, or an offering during your seasonal festivals, in order to make a pleasing aroma to Jehovah, the one presenting his offering must also present to Jehovah a grain offering of fine flour, a tenth of an ephah mixed with a fourth of a hin of oil. You should also offer wine as a drink offering. A fourth of a hin together with the burnt offering, or for the sacrifice of each male lamb. Or for a ram, you should make a grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah measure of fine flour mixed with a third of a hin of oil. And you should present wine as a drink offering, a third of a hin as a pleasing aroma to Jehovah. But if you should offer a male of the herd as a burnt offering, or a sacrifice to perform a special vow or communion sacrifices to Jehovah, you should also present together with the male of the herd a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah measure of fine flour, mixed with half a hin of oil. You should also present wine as a drink offering. Sorry, starting to get late. Let's see. We're on verse 10. You should also present wine as a drink offering, half a hin as an offering made by fire as a pleasing aroma to Jehovah. This is what should be done for each bull, or for each ram, or for each of the male lambs, or of the goats. Whatever may be the number that you offer, that is what you should do for each one, according to their number. This is how every native-born Israelite should present an offering made by fire to Jehovah, as a pleasing aroma to Jehovah. If a foreigner who is residing with you, or one who has been in your midst for many of your generations, should also make an offering by fire as a pleasing aroma to Jehovah, he should do just as you do. You who are of the congregation and the foreigner who is residing with you will have one statute. It will be a lasting statute for all your generations. The foreign resident should be the same as you before Jehovah. There should be one law and one judicial decision for you and the foreigner who is residing with you. Jehovah went on to say to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you come into the land where I am bringing you, and you eat any of the bread of the land, you should make a contribution to Jehovah. You should make a contribution of the first fruits of your course meal as ring-shaped loaves. Like the contribution of a threshing floor is the way you should contribute it. Some of the first fruits of your course meal you should give as a contribution to Jehovah throughout your generations. Now, if you make a mistake and fail to observe all these commandments that Jehovah has spoken to Moses, all that Jehovah has commanded you through Moses, from the day that Jehovah commanded and onward for your generations, and if it was done by mistake and without the knowledge of the assembly, the whole assembly must offer one young bull as a burnt offering for a pleasing aroma to Jehovah, together with its grain offering and its drink offering according to the regular procedure, and one young goat as a sin offering. The priest will make atonement for the whole assembly of the Israelites and it will be forgiven him, because it was a mistake, and they brought as their offering an offering made by fire to Jehovah, and their sin offering below. I said that wrong. In the end of 25, they brought as their offering an offering made by fire to Jehovah, and their sin offering before Jehovah for their mistake. It will be forgiven the whole assembly of the Israelites, and the foreigner who is residing in their midst. In other words, they all had the same, again. They will all be forgiven, because it was by mistake on the part of all the people. If any person should sin by mistake, then he must present a female goat in its first year of a sin offering, and the priest will make atonement for the person who made a mistake by an unintentional sin before Jehovah, so as to make atonement for it, and it will be forgiven him. As for the native born among the Israelites and the foreigner who is residing in their midst, there should be one law for you in the matter of doing something unintentionally. But the person who does something deliberately, whether he is native born or a foreign resident, is blaspheming Jehovah and must be cut off from his people, because he has despised Jehovah's word and broken his commandment. That person should be cut off without fail. His own error is upon him. While the Israelites were in the wilderness, they found a man collecting pieces of wood on the Sabbath day. Those who found him collecting wood brought him up to Moses and Aaron and the whole assembly. They committed him into custody, because it had not been specified what should be done to him. And Jehovah said to Moses, the man should put to death without fail, and the whole assembly should stone him outside the camp. So the whole assembly brought him outside the camp and stoned him, so that he died, just as Jehovah had commanded Moses. Jehovah went on to say this to Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them that they must make for themselves fringed edges on the skirts of their garments throughout their generations, and they are to put a blue string over the fringed edge of the skirt. You must have this fringe edge so that you will see it and remember all the commandments of Jehovah and observe them. You must not follow your own hearts and eyes, which are leading you to spiritual prostitution. This will help you remember, and you will observe all my commandments and be holy to Jehovah your God. I am Jehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt in order to prove myself your God. I am Jehovah your God. So, especially this last part, we see Jehovah, not that he was ever unbalanced, because he knows how to make decisions properly. So we see him not taking it too far, because we know that he's not going to do that. He can control and do anything. Like he said, he's going to wipe those people out. But we see where when things didn't go the way that the spies wanted them to, they had an opposite reaction than Jehovah did, where Jehovah calmed down quickly and set things up in a way to make him continue working. The 10 spies that were with Caleb and Joshua, they were bringing back these bad reports and mixing it all up, so that by the time it got back to the people, they didn't know what they were supposed to be believing, because there was people going around talking about it constantly. Well, sorry, I'm digressing. The first part, when they were telling about the people of the land, they're talking about the Anakim were there. The Anakim. These were a large-sized family. and they were afraid of them. They were bigger and more, they were naturally larger than them. So they were like, oh, the Anakim are there. But then they're like, they got called out. And if we read at chapter 14, they restated it. When it wasn't going the way that they thought. Oh, maybe it was 13, just a second. Yes, I'm sorry. It was chapter 13 and verse 30. We see that the people had an extraordinary size to them. But all of a sudden, the 10 spies that were sent over are being dramatic and making up stories in order things to look for the way they wanted them to, because they referred to the Nephilim being there at the end of 33. And the Nephilim are not there. There's no way they could be. The Nephilim are the people, if you will, that were actually created from when the angels pre-flood or before Noah's time would actually look at the things that were going on the earth and became wanting to have relationships with the woman of the earth, the pretty ones. They decided they wanted them for themselves, and they wanted to be able to perform the acts of husbands and wives like they did, like the people did. And so it says in the scriptures that they forsook their proper dwelling places, and then they did these things. Well, during the flood, or at the time of the flood, Jehovah said, okay, this is done. You are creating a horrible environment. This is never supposed to happen. This is an atrocity to me. And so, I'm sorry, I finished something. I didn't finish something, rather. When they had relations with those earthly women, they created children. And those children would then be hybrids. They would be half human and half of this created spiritual creature. Because we know they had spiritual bodies, and they had to create for themselves physicals. Well, they were called, these children of them, these hybrid children were called Nephilim. So now, since things didn't work for them, they're like, oh, we saw the Nephilim. You know, they're all being dramatic about the Anakim because they were big people. You know, look at like Michael Jordan and Shaq O'Neal. It's like those individuals were tall, but they weren't Anakim, or they weren't half angel hybrids, you know. I mean, they're just tall people. Andre the Giant. I'm thinking of like people that we might have ever seen on TV and whatnot. So definitely they weren't there, and it didn't get the result that they wanted, thankfully, by the other two spies, or by Moses and Aaron. So they definitely got a response from Jehovah, though. You're gonna have a great day. Sorry for the length of the video, and that it broke off. Have a great evening.